What is going on, everybody? Happy Monday. My name is Lombard. Welcome to the Truck Parking Clubhouse. It is December 22nd, 2025. Hope you guys are having a fantastic Monday. 35 minutes ago in your inbox, taillights issue number 49 is right in there with you. And we're going to cover one of those topics tonight in the Clubhouse, actually. But feel free to crack open taillights. Some great information going on. We got a CDL fraud scheme in Louisiana that got taken down, which just kind of highlights the issues going on within the industry with the crackdown we've been seeing kind of basically since summer pick up. Also, if you're tuning into the Clubhouse and you open your inbox and get to taillights, you'll notice we've got our holiday promo code. You can use the promo code HOLIDAY50. That's all lowercase. That will get you $50 off truck parking, and you can use that now through January 1st. So go through Christmas, through beyond. If you're driving out there, hope you're staying safe. I know that there's been some high winds. There's been some winter weather. If you're subscribed to our other newsletters, we're always dropping a winter weather update on there for you. So plenty of information to be had in all of our newsletters, as always. And if you're looking to connect with us, feel free to follow us on all social media pages. Feel free to reach out. Let us know if you have any issues. We do have 24/7 customer service that is available around the clock, staffed by former drivers that are there to help you drivers out there with whatever you got going on this holiday season. And yes, customer service will be available on Christmas Eve and Christmas Day for you guys, no matter what, rain or shine, just like how the supply chain works. But without any further delay, I want to bring my good friend back up onto the Clubhouse, the G.I. Joe trucker himself. What's happening, brother?
Hey, how's it going? And happy holidays to everybody that celebrate.
Yes, sir. Yes, happy holidays indeed. You know, these last 2 weeks of the year are probably just historically they've always been, they've been my favorite from being a little kid all the way up, even over the road. Like sometimes traffic in different cities. And now the weather could be bad, but like here in Austin, like right now, traffic on 35 has died down because a lot of people have gone away. And so like, traffic depending on, and then if you're driving through holidays, especially New Year's, like I was in Indiana for New Year's Eve in 2020, and I just remember it was just smooth sailing. So it's a great time of the year, especially if you're staying out of weather.
Yes.
Where are you tuning in from?
I'm tuning in from Branchburg, New Jersey. That is Central Jersey. I'm like off of 287. That's the I-287 going southbound. So that's where I'm tuning in from. Awesome. If anybody familiar with the Jersey interstates, you got I'm like I got like the best of both worlds between I-78, I-287, and I'm about like 45 minutes away from NYC, the New York City. So yeah.
Awesome. I gotta ask you, so pork roll or Taylor ham?
Oh, this is the Jersey in question. So it's a pork roll. It's a pork roll. Everybody in Jersey, because you got the all right, so this is how the sandwich is made of or whatever. You got the toast. You can either have it on a toasted bagel. You're not gonna find another better bagel than in Jersey. I'll put that to the test against anybody. So, English muffin, deep fried egg, and then you got the pork roll, kind of like the circular, like if you was frying bologna or whatever, you put the little slits on the ends and crisp the edges or whatever and everything, and people top it off with either salt, pepper, ketchup, or some mustard, and there you have it, the pork roll.
The salt, pepper, ketchup is actually the chef's kiss of the entire.
Yep. Salt, pepper. That's actually salt, pepper, ketchup. They use that more like in South Jersey, like South Jersey and the Philly or whatever. They're more with the salt, pepper, ketchup, but all around statewide is the pork roll. I feel like Taylor ham, that's more like a Southern thing or whatever and everything, but it's definitely the pork roll. So
good stuff. You're in agreements. We got Sean, the fittest trucker. He agrees. He says it's pork roll every day. He's also going to ask, being Central Jersey, it's a tough call. Is it are we Eagles? Are we Giants? Are we Jets?
I'm see now football. See, this is the thing when it comes to football. You have more non-home team fans in the state of Jersey than you have in any other state. Like in Jersey, I would say if anybody in Jersey had to go for the football team, I would say the Giants is more Jersey than the Jets, even though they play at the same home at MetLife, because you'll have more. I feel like the Jets and the baseball team, the Mets, they're kind of like together or whatever and everything. Even though you do have Jersey Jet fans, but there's more Jersey Giant fans than it is the Jets. If anybody could agree with me on that, but I think it's the Giants. I'm not a Giants fan. I'm a rival to the Giants. So, but Eagles, it is bloody territory. A lot of bar fights. You could you could hear about that. Whatever. I think one time I remember it was the time when it snowed in at the stadium and everybody was attacking each other with snowballs during the game. So,
well, you said you're a rival to the Giants. Are you a Cowboys guy?
Nah, I'm a formerly known as the Redskins fan.
Oh yes,
I'm an old school Washington fan from the '80s. So we haven't had success in a long time. I mean, we did well last year, and we got hurt a lot this year. So better luck next year. So we'll be watching it from the couch with the Giants, the Cowboys, and us. We'll be on the couch watching everybody else go to the playoffs and trying to win it all. So.
Good stuff. Yeah, it's come to think of it. Yeah, I feel like for being the nation's capital, you don't meet that many Commanders. I don't meet that many Commanders, Redskins fans like that.
I mean, but it gotta you kind of gotta grow if you're from like maybe Virginia. A lot of Virginia people are Commanders fans. Then the cutoff for Commanders fans is as soon as you get to Baltimore, they're like, oh, no, they're the Ravens, and that's it.
Yeah, and then it goes, and I always wonder, and I feel like maybe right at the North Carolina line, it turns to Charlotte, turns to the
Panthers. Yep, absolutely, yep.
And then South Carolina is probably split between the Falcons and the Panthers. So it's funny seeing regional fan bases.
Yes, but there's a lot of Cowboys. There's a lot of Cowboys fans in Jersey. But my older brother, he's a Cowboy fan. You got a lot of 49ers fans in Jersey. So I don't know. Don't ask me about that. It's just what it is. That was from the 80s, them watching Joe Montana, Jerry Rice, and all of that. So yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. But man, speaking of regional stuff, it's been a minute since the last time you came on the Clubhouse.
Right.
You've been all over the place. I noticed. I mean, you've been staying at you've stayed at a couple of truck parking club spots recently. Right. I'd love to hear about some of the spots you've been parking at.
Okay. I don't really have a specific favorite one, but I would say they're all I like within the nick of, and I try to plan my trip ahead of time because it just takes the stress off of my day or whatever. Just to have to know that, all right, at the end of my drive shift, this is where I'm going to park at, and I don't have to take a chance at a truck stop or whatever. Like, I'll still go to the truck stops because we got to get our fuel there, we got to get our other items, we got a hygiene and everything. But at the end of the day, so I will get my showers and all of that, like maybe mid-trip or whatever and everything, or right before I'm about to shut down, and then go park at a truck parking club location. And the ones that are literally like right across the street or right in the vicinity of like the big truck stops or whatever, those are like my favorites, like the one in Hagerstown. And then you got the one down in Arkadelphia, Arkansas. They're right next to truck stops, so you can have access to the truck stop, and that's like the best thing right there.
Yeah, the ones
So,
that I've noticed, or what's it called? We just had there was another driver the same way,
mhm.
where one of our locations was like adjacent to the pilot. So it's like
Right,
where
right, exactly,
you're parked
exactly.
someplace that doesn't have every amenity under the sun, but
Right,
you have the
right.
parking. You're able to you're a quick walk away from anything you kind of need.
Exactly, exactly. Oh yeah, and the most recent one, I was over in Rufus Glen, Virginia, and you off of that exit, I think it's the Carmel Church exit, right off of 95 South. You have at least three truck stops, two pilots, one Loves, bunch of hotels. You got a whole bunch of breakfast stuff, like the Waffle House and everything or whatever. So that spot right there is very good too. And me talking about it with everybody, I think everybody is starting to catch on or whatever. Right when I'd say like, hey, don't just hear from me, hear from other drivers that are influencers and sponsors that talk about the truck parking club and use their app or whatever. And if through the whole week after using promo codes and everything and you still believe it's a scam or whatever, then you don't have to use it again. But I wouldn't put my reputation or anything on nothing that I didn't believe in.
No, absolutely. I mean, the scam comment is always funny because
Right,
a scam is when you pay for something and you don't get it
right, right,
in return, and it's
right,
like so. I mean, and I mean, you would know better than me. Maybe interact with more drivers. I mean, until
right,
somebody uses truck parking club and they don't get truck parking, then
right.
I can't find the scam.
Yeah, like it was the one comment I think I parked over in. It was the one in Jackson, Tennessee. So the comment of the driver that attempted to park there, because see, one thing you have to do, you have to read and follow the directions on where because and what people don't understand is that these landowners, the property owners, are private owners that uses truck parking club to make truck parking available for us to park at. So they will give you directions and highlight the map in green on where to park at. So the driver that attempted to park there just looked at it and say, "Oh man, I can't park there," and he just immediately gave up and moved on to somewhere else or whatever. Which is, it's unfortunate and everything, but I don't know what more to say about that or whatever. So anybody that look into the app or look for a truck parking club, but follow the directions, look at what needs to be done when you're attempting to park or whatever and everything. And matter of fact, just Google Earth the area, find out how you could maneuver in or whatever and everything, and just you could make a whole lot of life a little bit easier. So, and I do that all the time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, with any issues like that, if there's ever
Right.
drivers, I mean, we try to make it pretty abundantly clear. Like if anything is unclear with the imaging,
Hmm.
nothing is perfect, and
Right.
it's why we team up with guys such as yourself, such as you know
Hmm.
Sean, Mister Hugh America out there, is because number one, we need your feedback, but also for
Right.
drivers is because your feedback is appreciated, especially because you make content. Not everybody makes
Right.
content, so it's like it's hard to and content is that we live in a era where the internet is a war for attention, and
Right.
for as much and the only way to win that war is by more content out there explaining kind of what we're doing, what the mission is. and
Hmm.
that's and that's kind of the whole point of doing the Clubhouse one, working with drivers such as yourself, and to also reiterating the fact of like, especially like how to use the app, where to find it, how simplistic it can be. But also,
Right.
I mean, and then at the end of the day, when people lose on content, I mean, we blast it everywhere, 24/7 customer service. Like there is a driver, there's quite literally a CDL holder and a driver with years of experience on the other side
Mhm.
of that email and phone that our customer service team has, that is ready and willing to jump in and get drivers parked no matter what. Like I can tell you from being on this side of things, that customer service team they will not rest until a driver is safely parked. Like they will work. They will move heavens and earth to get things done. And there's testimony after testimony of that happening. And I don't know anybody else in the game I don't know anybody else in the game who is doing that, because other parking options, they're not going to go that far. They're not
right.
That's true. They're not going to go that far. They're not going to have that, customer service team who's going to really get you squared up on it.
Exactly. Yep.
You were down in Austin recently. I got to say, I was just down at that location, and where were you delivering to?
So right after I left I went to Galveston, and I had a truck parking club spot down in Texas City, finished that load in Galveston, and then I had a backhaul going over to Austin, and let me see, I was picking up a whole bunch of I think I was picking up like something that they was putting on the high school football field. So a whole bunch of material that they put on the football field. So it was at Bowie High School in Austin. So that's why I was delivering to. And I was like, at least even with the rush hour and the commute and everything or whatever, I was still only 10 minutes away. Yeah, and it was in a yard, fenced in, gate access code, and it was pretty good. And I was only 10 minutes away from the high school at the pickup.
Yeah, I know exactly where Bowie High School is. It's a busy area too. That's on West Slaughter.
Yep, absolutely. And I was and I even seen, all of the I didn't know Austin had the Waymo, the Uber, the self-driving Ubers or whatever, the driverless Ubers over there. I didn't know Austin, they had those in Austin over there. So yeah, that was cool.
Did any of them cut you off?
No. Matter of fact, because right after the Bowie High School, I had a show load down at the Fairmont over in Austin, and you have a lot of them over there. If you're in their way, they'll just sit there until you move. They won't even attempt to drive around you or nothing like that. They'll just sit there and wait for you to move.
I was going to ask, you mentioned going to the Fairmont. Yeah, because there's videos all the time of those things getting in the way of trucks, getting in the way of emergency vehicles. So they'll just sit still. They just they just bow down to the trucks.
Right.
No, that's good stuff. Hey, we covered an article in Taillights though, and I'm curious to get your take on it. So, and I should actually bring it up. So recently, there's an executive order, and I was on Sirius XM Road Dog talking about this last week, because there was all these whispers of marijuana being moved from Schedule 1 to Schedule 3 drug, and there's a lot of drivers' ears were buzzing over it, and basically it did happen. Like, marijuana is going to be classified now as a Schedule 3 drug, but it's not doing anything. It doesn't change anything it doesn't legalize marijuana. It doesn't authorize its recreational use, because according to FMCSA, marijuana remains prohibited over the Federal Motor Carrier, their safety regulations of how it's classified. And basically what the DOT tests for is marijuana, cocaine, amphetamines, PCP, and opioids. Those are the top ones. Right. And even where it's medically legal, you still can't be prescribed it. You still can't use it if you're prescribed it, kind of the same way you can't use Xanax. Like, if you're prescribed Xanax and you're a driver, you still are not able, you're not allowed to take it if you fail a drug test. If you're prescribed Xanax, just because you're prescribed it doesn't matter. And in that case, you're still going to go to the SAP program. I wanted to hear your take kind of on this whole topic surrounding, marijuana and drivers should, do you think this would be a good, do you think, do you think that maybe it's an outdated rule? What do you think is best for
I think
drivers?
for the general public, like that's a good thing or whatever, because a lot of people that this helps for the general public, especially when with getting their records expunged and everything or whatever, due to the over incarceration thing and all of that and everything. But as far as like truck drivers and CDL holders, no matter whether you drive a truck or a passenger bus or whatever, it's still something that you still shouldn't engage in or touch, because even prior, before, like in Jersey, marijuana is legal. And I've seen a lot of guys, I personally know some guys that try to fight that in court because that is legal or whatever and everything. They participated in the activity, but unfortunately there's rules that are strictly meant for commercial drivers, that even as general public, you shouldn't be driving and participating with marijuana at the same time, whatever, because that is still considered driving while intoxicated. And for drivers, that's something that I wouldn't endorse or anything like that. That's not something you want to be engaged in. And even with the the hemp products, like the ointments and stuff like that or whatever, I had a friend of mine that was using the ointment. He wasn't a marijuana smoker, but the ointment has the hemp in it, and the hemp is made from cannabis. And he took a urinalysis and he failed it, unfortunately, and lost his job and everything or whatever. But if if he had let whoever was testing him or let him know, say, hey, I'm using this product or whatever for back pain and stuff like that, whatever, they could have probably rescheduled the test or whatever. But as far as like drivers, like even with the gummies and even some of the vapes that got the a little bit of the product in it or whatever and everything, that's something that I wouldn't want to take a risk at.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Sean says that the DOT in Jersey physicals doesn't test for pot anymore, which I believe is true, because I know I have some friends who drive in Connecticut, and I think it's the same way. I don't think
Right.
like going to get your medical card in states where it's legal. I don't think at the DOT physical, and I don't know, and that might be nationwide, at least, because as far as I know, I think the DOT physical in itself, when you take the urine test, is testing for like proteins.
Right.
Like,
Yeah, it does. It does. And
yes.
But I remember it was JB Hunt, right? Had Pat, and this one I used to I used to work with a company that was a third party with JB Hunt at a dedicated account, and they had a newsletter for the drivers or whatever. So I was reading the newsletter for the drivers that even though it is legal in the state, that is still considered because companies are private companies, and they're not gonna follow what is by just because the law said that is legal doesn't mean that you should do it or whatever. So I mean, but hey, and that's a touchy subject, because a lot of people been waiting for this long for for marijuana to be legal. But I would say if you want to partake in marijuana, then you probably shouldn't be in the business of driving, even as a owner operator or whatever, where you don't have anybody behind your back or whatever. You could still be in some big trouble with the law once if because it does cloud or cloud your judgment when you're driving and stuff like that. So that's just something that I don't really endorse, and don't want drivers to think that they could do something just because the law says that it's legal.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm in the case. I'm inclined to like lean towards that direction as well. The only
Right.
but like playing devil's advocate a little bit,
Mhm.
there's been great as the years have gone on.
Right.
There's a lot of great medical research, especially for
Mhm.
veterans, that I've heard
Mhm.
about. And I think because again, similar to if you're going to be a pilot or if you're going to be in the military, there are certain careers that if you're going to choose that kind of direction, that is
Right.
that is a pretty solemn, standing advice. It's not just, to get your CDL and drive. It's just like there's a similarity to just like joining the military, just like becoming a pilot. Your job, in essence, is kind of carries a lot of responsibility and weight. And
Right.
even though we live in this industry where there's a lot of bad players and we learn all this with these fraudulent CDLs
Mhm.
and stuff going on, there's still, there's still rules you kind of do need to follow off of it. And
Right.
what is unfortunate is, say somebody does live in Colorado, they're home for 4 days for a reset, and on the
Right.
second day they're having some fun, and then when they go back out driving, and really by the next day they're probably 100% fine. And it's
Mhm.
I kind of view the substance the same way. I put it in the newsletter today too. Like, I still am under the like, I think alcohol is 100% the worst drug comparing the two,
Right.
given,
Right.
I'm friends with a lot of police officers. We've had Texas DPS on the show, and every cop has
Right.
told me, I've never gone to a house call where the husband was so high he got really violent with his
Mhm.
family,
Yeah.
so to speak. And like, I've been hearing that for years. And so I think the comparisons out there, but pilots can't do it. Guys in the military can't do it. There's almost
Right.
just like a sort of, it might be a little bit old school, but if you are gonna, at this point, I mean, I guess, hoping for it to change. I don't think it's anything people should get their hopes up for. If they
Right.
want to, advocate for it, especially on the medical side, sure.
Mhm.
But I think it being moved to Schedule 3 is overall good for the country with, as you said,
Right.
criminal justice reform, more medical research,
Right. Right.
because maybe the more and more answers we get, then we can get a little bit more clarification. But I'm always curious to hear drivers' takes on it. Actually, another
Right.
topic brought up here. Sean says, "I wish they would let gun owners carry in their rigs across 48 states." Separate subject, which that's another gray area. And we haven't really, that's something I haven't really covered in taillights. And there's always a lot of miscommunication when it comes to the Second Amendment and drivers going across states.
Right. 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 Right.
There's videos guys say you can't do it. There's videos that are like, well, it depends on the state. There's this DPS officer told me this. What have you heard in regards to gun
Um.
ownership?
Well. As far as like carrying a loaded firearm in a commercial vehicle.
Yeah, or is it like the
My
company's rules?
well, that I think that's strictly on the company, and I would say almost about 85 to 90% of the companies I know don't want you to have a loaded firearm in the cab or anything like that, because it's like, for drivers, um I do condone with them protecting themselves and everything or whatever, if needed so be or whatever and everything. But it does, I guess, for liability risk and everything or whatever, because I think the company don't want to be, having that reputation that, oh, all of your drivers are armed and all of that and everything. But it is, something that I think that case by case basis or whatever, drivers should have some way of, maybe, like you see the different things that they market or whatever and everything, where there's some firearms that are non-lethal, like maybe the beanbag, or I think there was one product called Burner or whatever, where it shoots the projectile and it incapacitates the whoever the perpetrator is for 30 minutes, and and I think it gives you, like a son, like maybe like a pepper ball or something like that. That shouldn't be, limited or whatever. But as far as like, live rounds, in a, in a vehicle, and I guess, they just, the worst case scenario, if the loaded gun falls and, the round goes off or whatever and everything, and they don't want that liability on them. So I can see it from their point or whatever, but drivers should have a way to defend themselves if needed, so may be, or whatever. So
yeah, I know I had probably like a 3-foot crowbar on me, as
yeah,
well as
yeah.
it got a couple. Yeah, you keep a couple tools in the tool belt. I do know. I
Right.
was talking to a driver recently who staved off a park. It was actually a parking incident, not at a truck parking club location. You gotta throw that
Right.
out there. It was at a rest area, and they had to pull out. Didn't use it, but they had to pull out the mace. They pulled out a can of mace to stave off somebody who thought that their parking spot was stolen when it really wasn't the case. It was just a driver who I guess was having a bad day, and he was getting vocal and violent, and luckily nothing happened to her. But yeah, I'd say it's another, either the company dictates. I get why larger companies and fleets don't want it. It does carry a lot of liability. I mean,
Right.
And
carriers. And
carriers.
I did have, short story. I had somebody did pull a firearm on me. This was like off the I-80 in Nebraska, and it was just over something that it wasn't even worth it or whatever. He was upset that this big truck got in front of him, so he tried to brake check me. I didn't jump or whatever and everything, and then he was just yelling out explicitives from his vehicle, and then he pulls his gun out or whatever, and I didn't flinch. I just just kept going, and I didn't want to antagonize the guy, because you don't know people out there, whatever and everything, what they're willing to do and all of that. So I just didn't want. I want to be able to come back home for my family. I'm a father, so it's not worth it out there with anybody that is willing to risk their own lives, putting you in the same position as them. So I just try to go on or whatever and everything with not getting into any conflict.
That reminds me of number one. Glad you got away from that safe. It reminds me of I remember I had no guns got pulled, but I got into a heated argument on the CB once with this guy was driving like a complete fool. He was playing he's playing bob and weave kind of, and I got on there and I was calling him out, and he starts cussing back at me, and I'm a driver. I start freaking hammering it right back to him, and we're going back and forth, and he screams into it. He goes, get off exit, whatever. I think we were in Arkansas, and he's like, get off. He named the number exit. He's like, get off. He's like, we're going to talk about this. We're going to talk about this my way. He was being physically threatened. And I said, all right, for sure. I was like, exit 4. I think it was like 467. I can't think of the number. And I agreed with him. I said, I'll get off this exit with you. And he was in front of me at that point, maybe half mile. I see a truck get off that exit, and the guy, and as he pulls off, he gets in the breakdown lane, throws on his hazards. I didn't get off the exit. I just kept going. So it's like, the absolute bait and switch, because it's going to take a while. Yeah. Like by the time he gets back on the highway, he's going to be too far behind to even try and catch up. So I made him get off the highway. So I counted as a win, because I made him get off the highway completely, so he can have the opportunity to fake fight, and then I just kept driving on by. So yeah, I think proper de-escalation is good. I'm glad you got out of it okay, but I remember
right. And then my military, me being in combat or whatever, just kicked in and everything. He was trying to get me to react to him, so he have a reason to engage in his firearm. And I kind of saw through that, and I was just like, no, you know. So I kind of like, thought with this more than I thought with, trying to fight back or anything like that or whatever. And then he just drove off, and that was it.
Yeah, sometimes that's all it is. Sometimes somebody just blows off some steam and that's it.
Right,
Hopefully that's
right,
it, and leave it at that. I'm glad you got out safe
right.
from that. Hey, man,
Thank you.
I definitely want you to enjoy your time home. But I gotta, since it's the holiday week, it is it's a busy season. I gotta ask you the
Hmm.
GI Joe trucker. What's your what's your send us off with some good winter driving tips. So, what can drivers do to stay safe? What's your number one tool? And then send us off here with a great holiday message.
Okay, so uh, my company put out a newsletter and everything. Listen, always be the captain of the ship. And if they the model that they have for us, if it's ice or snow, don't go. My take on that or whatever and everything, if you can't comfortably drive over a certain speed limit or whatever and everything, like doing 35 in the midst of a blizzard or whatever, then just park it or whatever. Freight can wait. Your life and everything is worth more than the freight. And sending off for this holiday and everything or whatever. So I would just like to say, thank you for, to all of the drivers out there that are keeping us, floating and America moving. And I know you want to be that, you want to be home with your families and everything and all of that. Just know that or whatever and everything that, we got your back and you're never alone out there. We're always here with you or whatever. As long as we have a connection, like, through social media and everything or whatever, we hear you and we see you. So, be safe out there, guys, and y'all have a happy holiday. I'm out there with you guys, so don't think you're out there alone or whatever and everything. We all go through the same thing together. So, and home will be here when home will be here when you're ready to come home. So,
Amen, man. Well said. Really appreciate that message, and you're absolutely right. And thank you to everybody who tuned in this Monday to the Clubhouse. I do hope you have a Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays. If you couldn't tell by listening for the last 38 minutes, G.I. Joe Trucker himself, which go subscribe to his YouTube channel. He's got a phenomenal YouTube channel. We partner with guys like G.I. Joe Trucker because he wants to help leave the industry better than he found it. And he's absolutely right. You're not alone no matter what. As well as Mr. Unamerica, he is always available for you guys to reach out at any point in time, any drivers. We also have 24/7 customer service that is there for you drivers as well, because Truck Parking Club, we want to help leave the industry better than when we found it, which is why we help truckers save time and fuel by instantly reserving truck parking all across the United States. And again, just so you know, you've got it right at the bottom of the screen from G.I. Joe Trucker. You've got Holiday 50. If you need anything at all, don't hesitate to reach out to myself, G.I. Joe Trucker, or anybody on the Truck Parking Club team. But with that, guys, we will see you next Monday. Stay safe and hammer down.